Brooklyn Independent Television.
My name is Arden McDonald. I do mostly photography and sculpture. I also produce a line of jewelry. I was born in London, England to American parents. My dad is Scottish. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up in a very conservative background. My school was vaguely born-again Christian. My art and my self-portraiture was a bit of a reaction to that. I felt that I could, by making portraits of myself, that I could redefine who I was, that I could, try to figure out my relationship to the world around me, and I don't know, I was trying to find something that I could relate to. I felt like I didn't relate to most of what was going on around me. When I was 15, 16 years old, I used to go to abandoned buildings. I think for me it was a metaphor for me. I felt left out, left behind, forgotten. I would feel like I was connecting with some part of myself in terms of these spaces. And so I would find, I would set the camera on a tripod and I would work with the timer on the camera and make some sort of a self-portrait for my camera there. I think when I first started doing it, it actually came from a very funny place. I wanted to make a beautiful picture of myself, and I wanted to make 100 copies of it, and I wanted to give it out to everybody that I knew because I believed that it would change the way they saw me. I thought if I could make this ultimate picture of myself, that my whole life would change, that people would want to be with me and they would want to be my friend and this type of thing. And that's really where it came from in the beginning. But in the end, in a funny way, it worked because I did put my interests out into the world through these photographs, and I did collect people towards me because they resonated with the ideas that I expressed in the photographs. So I've actually made a lot of my best friends through my work. While the whole project was obviously influenced by different things that I was preoccupied with, mostly the tension that I felt living in a body with a mind that could dream. So the body had limitations and the mind was more free. I could imagine that I could fly, I could imagine that I could breathe underwater and to walk through walls. I think that the self-portrait project began a little bit more about me, and it ended up being a little bit more about all of us. It ended up being more about struggles that we all face. I mean, if you see a picture of me pulling on a rope or pushing on a wall, you relate to that because you think, oh, that's the struggle that I'm having. That's a metaphor for that struggle that I'm going through. After 15 years of taking pictures of myself and, making a window into what I saw or I felt or I experienced or what I did in that space, I started to feel a little bit of a limitation. I got interested in installation art. With the link by width photographs, I can give people a window into my experience, but if I can give people a whole room that has a treatment on the floor and on the ceiling and on the walls, then I can sort of give them their own experience. I started to want more of a dialogue with my materials because photographers sometimes miss some of that. Painters talk to paint and paint talks back to them. Photographers deal with light and chemistry and paper, but it can be a little abstract. For me, it became more interesting to try to invent processes by which I could make imagery. At the moment, I'm painting with terracotta clay, and what I'm doing is I'm building an outline around the body. So I've put down this template of the negative space of my body, and I'm putting this outline, and then when I'm done with this, I'm going to place different types of sort of household chemistry in here, which will be lemons and tomatoes. Acids tend to make the photo paper go paler. The whole idea came from, I was invited to come and do a site-specific installation for the Bratislava Month of Photography in Slovakia. So I wanted to do a piece, a whole room with 16 bodies inside of it, and each body would illustrate a different aspect of what it means to live in a body. So there was the body as cells, the body as liquid, the body as light, the body as energy, the body as metaphor. The way that these pictures are made is more gestural, it's more surprising, it's sometimes very chaotic, very explosive. You either get something really beautiful or the piece completely destroys itself and you begin again. But whatever happens, there's a lot more feedback, and it's more interesting for me in the process. So it's not just about the final piece, it's also about getting there, having a good experience while doing it.
Become a fan on Facebook, like Brooklyn Independent Television.